Hello and welcome to Mile High Reefers. I'm Scott Anderson, and the Flipper Cleaner Company contacted me and asked me if I would be interested in testing their Flipper Cleaner magnets. And I've seen these before and I've always thought they were really cool. I've just never had one to try. So when they offered to send me 3 of them, I jumped at the opportunity to test them. So let's check them out. The Flipper magnet comes in 3 different sizes. The Nano, which is good for thicknesses up to 1/4 of an inch. The Standard, which is good for thicknesses up to 1/2 an inch. And the Max, which can handle thicknesses up to 1 inch. The Flipper and the Flipper Max magnet come with 2 different blades, a plastic blade and a metal blade. The metal blade is designed for glass, as the hard material allows it to chip away at coral and algae and hard algae. The plastic blade is designed for acrylic tanks, where the soft plastic is less likely to scratch an acrylic aquarium. The Flipper Nano does not come with a plastic blade and is designed for glass only. Flipping the Flipper magnet takes some getting used to, but give it a few tries and you'll figure it out. The big trick is make sure your pumps are off. With the pump off, pull the handle about 6 inches away from the glass, turn it 180 degrees, moving to the right of the Flipper magnet, and the magnet should flip. I've been using the Flipper Cleaner magnet for about a week, and I gotta say, they gotta do a great job. The felt pad does a really nice job of getting the algae off the glass. When working down near the sand bed with the Flipper, you don't want to be on the felt pad side of the cleaning magnet. Reason being, if you get one of these little tiny grains of sand stuck in your magnet, it will scratch your glass. But that's okay, because Flipper has you covered. You can switch over to the blade side and you can get right down into the sand bed with very little risk of actually catching one of those grains of sand in your magnet. The reason you're at low risk of catching sand in your magnet is because of these little white dots on here. These little pieces of plastic push the cleaner magnet away from the glass. So you have 3 points of contact. You have that dot, you have the dot on the back side, and you have your blade. Now if you look at the blade, there is a little bit of sand right below it. But that is just some sediment. It's not stuck between the blade and easily falls out. How about that really nasty buildup on the top of the tank that's really hard to reach? Can the Flipper get that? Of course it can. I've used a lot of aquarium cleaning magnets in my history as a reefer, and one of Flipper's competitors struggles with corners. So how does Flipper do with corners? Absolutely great. Not a problem. So how does the Flipper work on an acrylic tank? I don't have an acrylic tank to test the Flipper magnet on how well it's going to do on an acrylic tank. What I do have is the plastic blade, and I can test the plastic blade in my tank on some of the harder algae in coralland and sand level. And really, it's working pretty well. It's doing a pretty good job getting everything off of there. One small problem I've noticed with the plastic ABS blade is it's slightly serrated. And I suspect that's actually a feature that helps keep sand from getting stuck between your blade, scratching your acrylic tank. I doubt you can see it, but what it ends up doing is it leaves the same serrated pattern in the algae that you're trying to clean. And then that just makes it that much harder to get it off, especially when you're right up against that silicone line and you don't want to mess your silicone up. This whole video is probably starting to sound like a commercial for the Flipper cleaning magnets, but I assure you it's not. Flipper sent me these magnets to try out. They're not paying me to do this. I am just really impressed by these Flipper magnets. It is super handy to be able to switch between a pad and a blade. And I've tried many different styles of magnets in the past. I've tried
the aquarium cleaning magnets that are just pads, and those work really well, except you get that buildup of hard algae, both the coralline and the hard green algae, and you just can't get that. I've tried just blade styles before, and it works pretty well, except just blade styles seem to struggle with the corners. They also are a lot slower to use, I've noticed, than a big heavy pad. I've also seen the magnets where they attach the blade to the pad side of the magnet, and I'm sure it works really well to get the hard algae off. My concern is when you're working down towards that sand bed that you're gonna catch that piece of sand under your magnet and scratch your glass. And that's why I have scratches in my glass on my 210 when I was using a magnet that had the pad and just a pad. I got a piece of rock stuck under there and it scratched my glass. And I think the flipper does a great job of addressing that. When I want a blade, I got a blade. When I want a pad, I've got a pad. When I use my blade, the risk is low of getting that piece of rock in there. And can I just say the strength on the magnet on the Max is amazing. So it is great to have that huge, heavy-duty, strong magnet on there. I have every bit of confidence that that will work on a 1-inch tank like Flipper claims. But the smaller standard Flipper did a great job on my 210-gallon tank, which is a half-inch tank. I was impressed. I've used magnets before where they give you a tank rating and they just kind of barely hold on. This does a great job. It's working well. So I'm really impressed by that. Now, one thing you're going to notice is I didn't put the nano in this. The reason I didn't put the nano in this episode is I don't actually have a tank to test the nano on. That is coming in the mail. So we're going to be putting together a nano build, and I will be featuring the nano flipper magnet on that build. So this is going to be a 5-gallon tank that's going to live at my wife's work on her desk. So this is going to be a super simple to take care of and inexpensive build. So if you like what I do and you want to follow that new tank and you want to see the next flipper magnet, like my videos, subscribe. I'm always making more. I'd like to say thank you to the Flipper company for providing these magnets to me. I am really impressed by them. And if you have a company and you'd like me to test your product, get a hold of me through the YouTube messages. Thanks for watching this episode of Mile High Reefers, and I'll see you on the next one.